So congratulations to J. Sagar Associates. I still refer to it as J. Sagar Associates. I guess I should say congratulations to JSA on finishing 3 glorious decades, 30 years. Wow. I still remember joining JSA when, on the pin boards, we used to have a little list of everyone's phone extensions and the mobile numbers. I never had a mobile, but some of the people had mobile phones. And that used to fit in one A4 sheet. I think there were like 16, 17 lawyers, maybe 15 when I first came to JSA. Certainly, starting off as an intern in Kumaran and Sagar, as it used to be called then, KNS Partners, and then really becoming the executive assistant to Jyoti back in 1998 was an amazing turning point in my life. I don't know how many of you know this, but the very first time I met Jyoti, this was at his home. He was on the dining table and he was covering Simran's books in brown paper. And one of the first questions I asked him is, so do you think it's worth doing law? I can't believe I actually asked Jyoti Sagar that question. He looked at me very quizzically and said, yes, I would say so. So, well, that's where my journey with JSA started. As an executive assistant, I remember out of the many things that I had to do, including sort of check the temperature of Jyoti's, then volatile personality, probably still is to some extent, and was to make sure that we have enough potted plants, those big green palms that the Malis used to nurture and have them strategically placed inside the conference rooms in 84E and 84C in scenic farms, and make sure that everything is in place before a fresh new client came in or an important client came to visit. One of the stories that I remember is like following Jyoti, and Jyoti is talking to Bhavar, and he's inspecting the cleanliness of our compound. And we go to this corner of 84C, and there's a pile of dry leaves which have been broomed and kept in one place. And Jyoti looks at Bhavar and says, and I'm kind of following one step behind. Jyoti looks at Bhavar and says, Bhavar, हमें इसको जर्मन तरीके से रखना है, हमारे को ऐसे कॉर्नर दिखना चाहिए. So Bhavar, of course, said, yes, sir, yes, sir. As Jyoti walks away 2 steps, Bhavar looks at me and says, sir, ये German तरीका क्या होता है? So that's how deep-rooted, my history and JS's history goes. Look, I remember before I talk about all the partners and the great lawyers and the law firm, I remember that Satyam used to give me a hitch, a lift on the back of his 2-wheeler when I used to come from home to the law firm and back from the law firm late in the evening back home. And that would kind of help me not walk the 1.5 kilometers to Kanpur and then take a bus and 2 buses back home and do the same thing in the morning. So ever grateful for those rides on riding pillion with Satyam going back home or coming early in the morning. Or for that matter, driving with Jyoti, and he used to have a Ford at that time, and we drove a long way. Krishan was driving, and I was sitting with Jyoti at the back, and we drove off from Delhi, or actually from his home in DLF, and we just stopped in the middle of nowhere. It's almost like the road stopped, or there was a dirt track, and there was just dust all over and mud all over. And he stopped there. I got out of the car, and he looked at me and said, Aditya, this is where we're going to have our office. And I'm looking around, it's in the middle of nowhere. Really, there's nothing except for an open field and dirt and mud. And that's where today's this proud building Sandcrest stands. So that's the way that JSA kind of thought of the future when nobody could see, an opportunity in barren land. I remember signing as a witness to the first partnership deed between Jyoti and Prem and Hemant. And this was way back in the late 90s, when no other law firm was thinking of true partnership. Here was a firm which kind of made equity partners, and I read the partnership deed, and I signed as a witness to it. It was an amazing experience for a 22-year-old to go through all of this and see how institutions are really built over decades. I remember at that time Jyoti saying, that by this stage I'm going to retire, and I'm thinking like, yeah. And he did, and handed over to not only the next generation and his partners, but for generations to come. Having left JSA and had the privilege of working in large businesses, scaling them up to massive businesses with literally tens of thousands of colleagues, I can never forget that having not been to business school, I actually learned more about human beings, colleagues, employees, building institutions and people culture back in JSA. And I'm ever deeply grateful for that. One of the things that you might have heard of is that I was the first CFO of JSA. Little known fact, I was the first chief fund officer of JSA. And I took that very seriously. And not only did I spend a lot of time, working with my other associate colleagues to come up with fun stuff to do on retreat, etc., it also gave me a very legitimate, sanction, license to pull pranks on people, including taking a small lock and clicking it onto the bridge of my then colleague Suniti's spectacles, or telling Rupa that she has to come early in the morning every day, and before she went to work, she had to come and wish Jyoti, and anybody who's worked at close quarters with Jyoti at 8:20 in the morning, 8:15 in the morning, you don't want to be around Jyoti. And so again, how to kind of take something as serious as a profession of law and being a lawyer, and actually not taking yourself too seriously and building an institution and a culture where people really love to come to work is something that helped me to create great places to work for decades together in my business life. I can't not mention some of my senior colleagues from whom I learned so much. Jyoti, to begin with, just being able to go and pinpoint that needle in the haystack and concentrate on what really the client wants. To Hemant, who kind of taught me how to get the deal done and not move away from the bigger picture of meeting deadlines and making sure that you understand what the client's needs are. It's hours and hours and hours of grueling, painstaking note-taking and corrections. I don't know if Amit, you still use those number of colored pens that you used to use and keep underlining them and make notes. Gosh, that was so hard, sitting till late in the night and having pizza, on your table. Shippy, who is just such a true lawyer. I mean, she knows the law just so well. And Shippy, you remember I used to tell you, Shippy, you're going to be here with an old cane, even when you're really, really old, and you're going to be walking down these corridors. And you said, you used to curse me and see, you'll become an institution in the institution itself. Sajay, there was never a time that you did not smile, encourage people to laugh, have the ability to laugh at yourself. I can just go on, but thank you for playing such an important part of my life. Thank you for giving me so many beautiful memories, which I still carry in my heart. All of this is straight from the heart. So I'm ever grateful to those foundation years that I spent at JSA. Congratulations on building a great institution. I wish you all the best, that you will be a shining light to generations of young lawyers who come and join the profession, and great advocates and counsels who not only help build the institution, but really are able to chase their own personal dreams just as I did. And most importantly, thank you for allowing me to be the incorrigible me, and also realizing that I have something within me that I did not see at that time. Thank you so much, and congratulations once again.